Okay, The Baby's Room is a Spanish horror film that was purchased and is currently being distributed under Lionsgate as part of a 6 films to keep you awake. I know nothing of Spanish horror, or película, if I didn't butcher that word horribly. It just means film in Spanish. So, Baby's Room is kind of about this pseudo-idyllic couple. You know, they just bought a beautiful house, they have a beautiful kid, wife's beautiful, they've got good jobs, everyone's happy, everything's great. And the wife's kind of like, things are almost too perfect. Okay. And then one day the husband looks at the baby monitor, and looks at their kids, clapping and laughing, having a good time. He looks at it and he's like, that seems odd. The baby, like laughing like that, and all of a sudden clapping and being all kind of bizarre. I'm talking like newborn. He's like, okay. He looks over there again, and there's a guy entirely clad in black in there. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe some sort of like paranormal activities sort of movie, but good. He goes in there and investigates, but he goes in there with a butcher knife, thinking someone's, trying to attack his child. They get a security system, a couple of false alarms, because only he is seeing this person. It ends up later being revealed. Now, this will be kind of a spoiler, but I have to say this is actually the plot of the movie. The baby monitors that he is using, the video monitor, is a key to a parallel universe where the parallel universe version of himself is trying to kill his wife and his son. It's not a bad movie. When they throw that out, I was like, whoa. So the baby monitor that he bought at a store happens to be a key to a parallel dimension where he's trying to kill his wife and his son? It's a real bizarre, like, super left turn. You talk to some crazy people and stuff like that, and you see lots of similarities between some of their stories, but when they throw out that, oh yeah, that your baby monitor is actually the key to a parallel universe where you're a killer, it just seems really bizarre. Good acting, it's got some decent chills to it. Will it keep you awake? Only probably from sheer confusion. And that is The Baby's Room. Okay, continuing these 6 films to keep you awake, on the same disc as The Baby's Room, or The Baby Room, is To Let. Not toilet, To Let. Which essentially is one of the terms used when you're trying to rent an apartment place. So you have a young couple that's happy that see this ad for an apartment. The apartment is kind of in this very large rundown building. They go check it out. It's a pretty nice apartment. And then they found the person who kind of runs it is essentially kind of crazy and likes to chain the people into their rooms and keeps them kind of like pets. So you do have some of the torture aspects, and you've got a couple of twists and turns. It's not a bad movie. I mean, for the budget and for the hour you've got, it's pretty decent. I'm almost thinking this films to keep you awake is a lot more kind of like a Masters of Horror sort of thing. So it's really not a huge budget. The plot's decent for the hour you get. It's got some kind of vicious moments, someone gets their hands stuffed in like garbage disposal. So it's got some blood to it. It's not really, really over the top. It's not bad, but much like Baby's Room, this is not a movie that'll keep you wide awake. It's an hour long. It's not horrible, but it's a far cry from being absolutely fantastic. Okay, now into the third film from the 6 films to keep you awake. Blame. A young woman and her daughter are strapped for cash, so they move into the house of a doctor friend. And there are bizarre things that are kind of going on around the house. There's some weird sort of supernatural things to it. The doctor, she is essentially a gynecologist specializing in essentially fetal development. Whether you would like said child or would not like said child. This one, the supernatural moments are kind of hinted at. It never really fully makes that true transition. The main character, of course, makes a difficult decision, and it kind of ends up haunting her. The way her daughter reacts to it is probably the best. You know, the acting from the child is easily what makes this film kind of watchable. Again, it's an hour long, nothing really over the top. Having seen other movies that have dealt with this subject before, you know, movies kind of like recycle and stuff like that, I've seen it done well quite a few times. Supernatural elements, like I said, are kind of meh. What really makes this decent is the acting of the child. Beyond that, it's an okay movie. There's really nothing truly tremendous or things that'll keep you awake. I don't want to give away too much, because if I say too much about it, it's going to entirely ruin the ending of the movie, which by itself is okay. You know, on a scale of like 1 to 10, this is kind of like a solid 6. You know, the acting's good, the set design is good, it's a low budget film. If you don't go in expecting anything to be super over the top, you know. Beyond the acting of the daughter, there's very, very few things that are really truly redeemable about this movie. So it's not bad, but it's not fantastic. Okay, continuing the 6 films to keep you awake, Spectre is the story that takes place in 2 time eras. There is a younger kid who's about close to 15, 16, and a woman just moves into his neighborhood. And everyone thinks she's either a witch or a prostitute, because she lives by herself. Occasionally strange men go to her house, and there's been no rain and livestock have been dying. Well, while this kid goes to sneak a peek of her, he twists his ankle. She takes care of him, and he kind of slowly falls in love with her. Since town people think she's a witch, they of course kill her. And as a young boy, by the time he grows up being an old man, he's essentially consumed by guilt over what happened. So this movie is pretty much just a straight psychological piece. Set designs, beautiful. Dialogue, really solid. Acting, solid as well. You know, this is actually a very beautifully done movie. Is it scary? It's got some moments where it's got a little bit of that, like supernatural psychological thriller to it. Nothing over the top, nothing super intense. But it's probably out of this whole film series, probably my favorite one. It's got a nice slow burn to it, nothing's over the top. There really aren't a lot of like big scare factors. But it's got that nice, slow, methodical pacing to it. And over the course of like a little over an hour, it does a fantastic job. And that is 6 films to keep you awake, Spectre. Okay, the other half of the last is a movie called Real Friends. There's a young girl who is fascinated by horror movies, and why not? They're pretty awesome. And she actually kind of makes friends with some of the villains. You've got Dr. Jekyll, a Nosferatu, who looks fantastic. Now this Dr. Jekyll is like period style Dr. Jekyll. No, I'm sure Nosferatu. There's a zombie she becomes friends with that looks really good design on the makeup, as well as Leatherface. Leatherface, pretty solid. And she's talking to a guy called the Vampire. He's not actually a vampire. He doesn't have the teeth or anything. He looks almost kind of like a Eurotrash vampire you'd see in Blade with no teeth. Really kind of bizarre, and you can kind of tell this is all happening inside her head. There's a teacher she doesn't like. Vampire takes care of him, and then when Vampire goes back to their house to have pizza, all of her friends then help defeat Vampire. And then the ending happens, and you're kind of left to go, oh, okay. the designs of the monsters, fantastic. I would love to see Leatherface have a little more to the mask, be talking a little bit more, just a little bit more. But the Nosferatu and the zombie and the Mr. Hyde, beautifully done. The plot seems kind of bizarre. Like I said, the last disc is probably the most difficult one to get through, but not bad. Like all these, it's not really scary, and the storylines are pretty good. But beyond seeing a bunch of, I'll just say, plagiarized characters and really good designs on them, you can probably skip this one. Okay, part of the last disc of 6 films to keep you awake. It's got 2 movies that are kind of difficult to explain. So, I'll go with Christmas Tale first. This has kind of a Goonies, Stand By Me, Sandlot-y sort of feel to it, and it's a lot of children. And they go out into the forest, and they find a woman dressed as Santa Claus who's stuck in a hole. They try to help her out. Then they find out she's actually a bank robber. They blackmail her for the money, and then she dies. Since a lot of this movie deals with the kids watching a really, really bad, like Andrew Dice Clay style zombie movie, they decide, wouldn't it be awesome to have a pet zombie? So they turn her into a zombie, who of course attacks them. How do they defeat the zombie? Spoiler alert, the Karate Kid fan does the crane kick, which knocks in a giant slide into a huge pile of Deus Ex Machina. The bright thing about this story is it has the little girl from Pan's Labyrinth. But I watched and I was like, is this a scary movie? Does it have like comedic elements? What are you trying to go with this? The fact that it's little kids who turn a dead woman dressed as Santa Claus into a zombie and then are amazed the zombie runs amok. Probably one of the most bizarre movies in the 6 film series.